But I started to see the world the way Elijah saw the world. By not forcing him to see it the way I would see it, but by stepping into his world, I was able to see the world through his lens. What is our role? What is the call from God on our lives to love people where they are? How can we love again? In the Bible, we're given an interesting call, an interesting title, an interesting role. In 2 Corinthians 5:20, it says that we are Christ ambassadors. And what I love about this title, this call, ambassadors, is that typically in the modern world, ambassadors have to be bilingual. They have to be fluent in 2 languages. They have to know the language of the king or queen, the kingdom they're representing, so they know the message very well. But they also have to be fluent in the language of the kingdom they're going to, because the kingdom they're going to has a different lens of the world. They have a different history. They've had different wars. They speak a totally different tongue. And an ambassador has to be fluent in both languages. Otherwise, a very important message will get lost. So what is our role if we want to love again and we want the people in our families who don't know God, the people at our places of work who don't know God, the people in our communities who don't know God, we want them to know how loved they are? What is our role? We're gonna have to know 2 things. We're gonna have to know the words and ways of those around us. We're gonna have to start to see the world through other people's lens. Do we know why our neighbors don't wanna talk about church and the hurt they've had in churches in the past? Are we having conversations with them? Are we in close enough proximity to them to know that? Do we know what the parents are going through in our congregations? Do we know what the entrepreneurs are going through in our congregations? Have we sat with them? Have we had these conversations with them? Do we know our little brother's favorite superhero? Do we know the words and ways of those around us? Because for some of us, we know God's answers, but we don't know the questions people are actually asking. For some of us, this is a language that we want to get a little bit more fluent in. If we want to be Christ ambassadors, then a question is, do we know the language of the people around us? What the people in our churches are going through, what our family members are going through. Can we see the world through their lens? We need to know the words and ways of those around us, and we need to know the words and ways of God. We need to know what the King is saying. And we will know that as we keep coming back to church, as we're surrounded by other Christ followers who are in the Word, as we're in the Word ourselves, because we need to know God's answers to people's real questions. Some of us, this is the language we know really well, because we have like friends who are far from God and close to God. We're like a good hang for everybody. But when people ask us about hope or resilience or fearlessness or how to even start reading their Bible, we don't have God's answers to their real questions. The call that comes from God to love people where they really are, in many ways, is a call to be bilingual, to be fluent in 2 languages, so a very important message can be conveyed to people who so desperately need to know how loved they are.